This one is a talk I gave on Saturday, but I have time to look at it again. I'm giving the same talk, but people have often brought this subject up at various times, and it's called somebody that wants to have it all. Is it possible to have it all? And the title of this talk for me is No, we can't have it all. That's the problem. So we can't have it all, but we would like to. When I was in my 20s, I was sure success only mattered with effort. And if I tried hard enough, I could have it all. In my 30s, however, I learned otherwise. But fortunately, I was learning that point in meditation at Tassajara. Have it all is such a confusing idea that it can't be relied on for something called success, at least not for long. And I was just learning about samsara. It took me a long, long time to realize that samsara was not a place to fix or make better, or it was not a place to look for happiness and success that would last. And anything that wouldn't change was impossible to find. Samsara is our place to learn through conflict, obstacles, and challenges about how to be flexible and kind, and to learn how to let go of thoughts and opinions and to clear up delusions about life and our own self. Finally, I learned that to be able to live in samsara without falling apart, one had to be very patient, very tolerant, and clear-sighted, or else spend the most rest of your life cleaning up karmic messes behind you. For example, if body, speech, and mind runs amok, we have a lot to do until we clear up confusion and gain some discipline of body, speech, and mind. We can't have it all for the reason that samsara is a world created from the activities of body, speech, and mind of each one of us. It's a different reality for all of us because we have different wants and needs. Samsara is created by our wants and needs, our perception of the world, by our beliefs about reality, and our personal histories, as well as wanting futures while avoiding living in the present. We can't have it all because we first have to relinquish possession of a self we've created through ignorance. We can't have it all because first we have to let go of that which most desires it, which is ourself. We can't believe that all we have to do to diminish suffering in samsara is to let go of clinging to anything, even to ourselves, and to flow with change after change. We have to let reality shape us instead of creating our image from our thoughts within and our opinions without. Once we take off the mask of self, however, we can't return to the ignorance of before, even though we still live by our names and our past histories. The difference being that we don't identify with our past history and with our past image. We don't identify with any past history, even if we speak of it. We no longer limit our understanding to a name, even though we still use it. We allow miracles to happen because we've made space for them within. And the crowd we once carried inside as our means of understanding the world and ourselves has found their home within. The opinions, thoughts, and complaining of before has quieted down. What we threw out in emotion has returned to its source within us. Now, if we are open-hearted with each return of karmic embrace of past activity, we can become whole. And this is to have it all in the only way possible, the only way that we can have it all. But for ordinary self purposes, we can't have it all because there is no all to gain. There is only the natural ebb and flow of moments that we either reject or accept. We either fight for the delights of samsara, which always seem to wither on the vine, and surrender to the flow of ceaseless moment. In samsara, as fast as things can change for the better, they can also change for the worse, and vice versa. When we understand that, we learn to drop what anchors us in resistance and adapt to moment and change. We also could wake up to the ceaseless great activity always going on around us and that we pretend not to see. And if we want to be active, we can move with the ebb and flow of samsara without clinging to success or failure. We could discover another face of the moment, even in the motion and ceaseless change of samsaric activity, one of peace, composure, and clarity. Then samsara becomes samsara and not samsara. I'm making it seem somehow easy and simple to do this kind of practice, but each one takes a large part of a lifetime to realize the fruits of it. What we don't consider is that even if we learn all we have to learn, the next part, the embodiment of understanding, the actualization of understanding, is the hardest part and takes a lifetime to express freely, because we have to physically live this part through, and it does take time to bear fruit. While thinking and feeling can handle leaps from profound insight to insight, the body moves at its own speed, no matter how much we want to push. The body will learn at the speed that's good for it. That's why we can have enormous insights and still have resistance from the body. No matter how powerful the insight, the recognition, or the understanding, a disciplined body must be strong enough to embody it and to express all manner of mental and emotional leaps of the mind. The body, throughout practice, has been meditating on the precepts in its own way. Illnesses appear, aches and pains, physical problems, all have a way of highlighting our mental preoccupations with delusions. And we clarify ourselves by accepting and going through body problems without complaining or talking so much about them. During our time of body study, which mainly comes later in practice, physicians and nurses and medical caregivers become our teachers. We could say that they heal us as much as possible, or maybe they heal us of much of our delusions that have taken root in our body-mind. If we are patient in illness, in discomfort, in physical problems, if we can give medical caregivers the respect of listening to them for healing, if we can give them gratitude for their help, then you could say that we are in a temple or monastery with our true teachers. As our teacher in Japan, Kano Sensei, said to us, we are still living in the deer park under the tree with Shakyamuni Buddha, listening to him talk to us. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions at all about this, please feel free to bring up anything. Any suggestions or any things that isn't clear or out of touch or something, whatever it is, please ask.
I was uh, trying to follow. Well, okay, so something you said regarding the the importance of the body embodying or living some kind of insight or realization or learning a lesson. I don't know why, but that kind of struck me because uh, okay, so I've seen like multiple times like I'll understand something like, oh yes, impermanence or whatever it is. And then like I'll respond to another situation later the exact same way I would before. And I'm always just like, well, what's wrong with me? I saw it. Why didn't I do it differently? But it somehow just seems like, but is it, I guess, how is it the body that needs to catch up? Like, what is it about the body? Because it seems like my actions or how I respond to situations is all taking place in my consciousness, my mind, so to speak. And I was wondering, So how does the body, what role does the body play in actually catching up to whatever realization or insight someone has and then doing it differently, I guess, next time? Does that even happen?
Okay. Well, just think of it when you think of anything. Look how fast your thinking can go in a split second. You can cover many things at once. When you feel something, it's out and gone, just like that. But the body is in physical time. So the mind and the thoughts and the feelings come up very quickly and disappear very quickly. And you may have a very big insight that could actually change your perspective on something, but the rest of you has to catch up. The physical body in physical time has to catch up to that mental state of moving in great leaps. And so the body still has to live all that understanding in real time. And so the body may understand, like the change of perspective, but it not doesn't completely understand. And we have to live that mixture that led that leap to take place. We have to live through that first. And then the body comes through and it suddenly grasps. Right now, we think of my body, I have a body, but actually the body is a life of its own, like body, speech, and mind also lives in our existence, and we have to deal with the way we speak, the way we think, and the things we do. And the things we do just takes more time because it's in physical reality. And it can't make the same kind of leap that a mental state can make, at least when we're working like this. So you may have a great leap of understanding, but it will not last unless the practice backs it up in some way, unless you're doing a practice that will encourage it to continue.
So it kind of sounds like you're saying, don't be too hard on myself if I have to keep learning the same lessons over and over again, because um, like ships don't make U-turns or something like that. It's like there's more to it than understanding a thing. In order to make a new habit, it's almost like you're saying it's tantamount to practicing a sport, or like archery. Like you have to you have to take it out of the realm of intellectualization and somehow put it into something else. So
Yes.
even though a lot of what I'm referring to or thinking of in this example is like emotional work, like someone does something, and then before I can think about it, I'm responding in anger instead of sort of deconstructing it and like reminding myself of like where they're coming from. Even though that seems like just mind work and that it should respond instantaneously once I realize that, oh, hurt people or something like that. That there's more to it, more about it that's like uh, learning a dance or something that has to actually get in your body. So I shouldn't be too hard on myself. Sorry, that was really long and drawn
Oh,
out.
that was a good point. Those are all good points. The thing is that once you realize something very quickly, you have crossed whole things of your future and present and past to put it all together. You've taken everything in your mind and your feelings and assembled something very quickly. Like you've seen this happens because of this happens because of that, and you've suddenly put them together to realize something about the relationship they have. And so if I'm painting a picture and I visualize the picture very clearly in my mind and I start to paint it, it's not finished anywhere near. It will take a long time to bring into physical reality the mental state that produced the image that started me working on it. And Beth McGill, who is a dancer and teaches dancing, if she like imagines a whole dance and has it worked out in her mind, the whole thing, the stage presence and everything, when she actually does it, then everything changes. Everything has to be lived through to bring up not just the possibilities of what the mind or the emotion can think, but it has to bring up the possibilities of what the body can do, can visualize and realize. So it can take a long time between the thinking of something and the bringing into a physical reality of that something. Rachel?
Thanks, Chris, for your question. Um,
Yeah, it was a
thank,
good question.
yeah. and thank you for I love hearing the talk again. Um, I really appreciate your saying how many years it takes. Thank you very much.
It does, a long time, actually.
Yeah, a real long time.
Yes, it would take approximately 20 years at least, to really completely realize with your body what your mind has made leaps at in practice.
I, I doubled that, but
I was,
Jane's very fast.
no, I'm not very fast. I don't want to scare everybody. I don't want to discourage. Yeah.
no, I'm slow. I'm slow. Please, everyone, I really,
Please remember,
no.
I'm 85.
yeah.
It never stops, you have to work at it always, no matter every mental and emotional beginning you start inside. Your body will work to realize it in one way or another, sometimes not for the good, so you have to be careful.
And it's just, but I'm most keenly aware of it because, well, some of you know, I had a very serious medical emergency. It's not all over with, but I was in the hospital a couple of weeks. And, you think you understand something. I mean, I've been sick, I had cancer, all these things have happened, but never anything quite like that. And I have to say, it was the most complex, fascinating labyrinth of education I've ever known. It was like talking about the body. There were times where I thought I was watching the body demonstrate something to me. Do you know what I mean? As though the body said, okay, you're really slow. So we're going to do it this way. You're just going to be flat down and you're going to have to watch and listen and feel. You don't get away from, I'm laughing, but really there were moments where I was in part of a process where I was watching and, I don't know if I'll ever be able to take it in, but the part eventually, that dualism between mind and body, and for about 40 years now, they've been teaching that use your mind to heal your body. Like you have a mind that's gonna force the body to heal regardless. And in the experience I had, there wasn't that division. There wasn't such a division. I didn't understand, but there was thinking and physical evolutions. But I was the only time I think in my whole life I've had a clear sense of an entire being, an entirety of living that didn't go through my head first.
That's interesting.
Even when it's been in the body, like, pain or childbirth or something. The moment the acute sensation left, back to thinking, back to home base. And so that's why that experience remains kind of a new core, because it really was not that bifurcation. Is that the word I'm trying to think of? And it was, I almost had nothing to do with it. My will for once was kind of dismissed. Anyway, thank you so much for the talk. It's wonderful to hear it again.
Yeah, I think, that whole business we had of let your mind heal your body is like missing out on the importance of the body healing the mind as well. That it's a partnership and they work together. You have to love your body as it is and make friends with it, really make friends with yourself as you are, and just let them work together and get out of the way. And another thing is, like when you're sitting, when your mind calms way down peacefully and you literally almost stop thinking, there you're starting to connect to your body without your mind first. And you're beginning to let your body come through and speak for itself at that point. And at some point, the body must speak for itself in everything, like whatever we do, we have to allow the body to express as well as the mind. And so we think that it's only our understanding, my understanding, but my disappears in when it's the body working. My literally disappears because uh, you can't claim to own something that is just present and nothing more. And we don't understand reality enough to talk about presence, really. So, and I can't, so I won't. But I do think that body and mind has to work together as a partnership, and that we have to really learn to love our bodies as we are and not as we would like to be, which is a confusion. Anybody else? Spencer or Donna?
No, I think your Dharma talk and Chris's question, just, the schism between, the physical body's connection with the mind, and they're both, in one context, that's a skin bag attached to this diluted mechanism up here. And, in another, maybe they don't exist, right? So the dichotomy between the two is interesting, the dynamic. And I think, I think you talked about, that space between thought and action. And, samurais had that. I think there's a Japanese word for it. It's the actual mental space between a thought and an action. And if you exist in that space, everything is effortless.
That would
And
be silence.
What's it called?
That would be silence between
Oh,
thought and an action.
wow. There's a Japanese word that has great meaning in terms of,
Kata?
no, it's like martial action.
Oh,
But
if you think of it, let us.
no, my mind's not there. But, I just pulling on that thread and really, thinking about nothing and my body and my mind and samsara, and just that connection through delusion. I just feel like my body is connected to my samsara, right? As much as my mind is connected to my samsara, but I affiliate my mind to my samsara, and I feel like my body is disconnected to it, even though I know it's in cahoots with it. So Rachel gave me a tip off that that's probably true, but I just play with these dynamics when I sit, and ultimately they get me nowhere. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Spencer. Yeah, Peter, would you like to say something?
How can you say more than that?
It's true, it covers a lot.
The last sentence was the best, yeah.
Yeah, well, the other part I was saying here, which also has to do with the body and the mind, is that when karma returns to you, you welcome it and you don't try to dismiss it, don't try to understand it, don't try to make friends with it. You just simply let it in and let it sit and do absolutely nothing. It's like the koan, nowhere to go and nothing to do. You just let it be what it is and nothing else. And finally, if we do that often enough, we will find that our body begins to feel more complete in all kinds of ways. I'd like to hear what people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please go again, Rachel. We're starting to record it, so we don't lose.
I got two voices saying it was recording a special day. I was just saying that under the medical sky and teachers, that when the requirement for certain conditions to be met, becomes transparent. So it's not expectations and hopes on if this happens, then that happens. Having in mind like a protocol for conditions on what ought to happen next. It's interesting when that shifts or even kind of disintegrates, because what's really compelling is when there are errors, or when things go awry. You really can notice that you must learn from a situation in which there's an error, and an error by the medical where it's acknowledged. I don't mean it's in your mind. I mean when really something happens. And if you live through that kind of situation often enough, it's such an opening when you can have, I mean, I guess you can say compassion, but I think of it more as just simply a spaciousness, a genuine curiosity to see what is happening and what can be learned regardless of what the outcome is. I don't mean you can't want an outcome, but when you're not quite as attached to it, just clinging madly, when that starts to fade, then the ability sometimes actually for the healing to go more quickly, if there is healing that's involved, it is an education. And so thank you, Jane, for bringing that up.
Oh, you're welcome. I just wanted to say, that when I say that our caregivers are also like teachers, they are teachers, and but they're teachers of the body. And so, but like teachers anywhere, we're going to have good times with that, and we're not going to have good times. We're going to fight with them, and we're going to disagree and do all. It's just very normal and natural. But if we understand that we're dealing with a real open, spacious situation, that we can really learn by it, and we can get rid of the delusions that are lodged in us way down deep. That's what I was getting at. What are you laughing at?
Just when I came over, it was like, giddy.
You what?
Nothing, never mind. I'll say later.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you have any more questions?
Someone's
Really,
got their hand.
everybody understood? Everybody agrees with everything I said? No problems whatsoever?
Oh,
Well then.
Well, heck with you.
No, this is,
So, what's the all we can have?
what's the only all we can have is the one where you embrace returning karmic activity. And instead of repulsing it, we accept it, because when you do, it comes back to your home, as it were, and that part of you becomes full and complete again. It doesn't, when you lose a lot of activity, like you get mad and spout out all kinds of emotion and whatnot, you throw that out into the void, as it were. And when the karmic return comes around, you have a chance to rehabilitate that self into you again in its natural form. And so it comes back at you angry, like you maybe threw it out. And so if you embrace that and don't throw it away and work with it carefully until it slowly, mellows, then you can bring that back into yourself. That what you threw away, you can return to yourself, but you have to truly accept it. You can't say, well, I like this part, but I don't like this. You really have to accept that part of yourself, which you like to think isn't you when it comes back at you. But you have to embrace it as part of yourself. And when you do, you make yourself more whole in that sense. So, no, I was just going to say, we spend half our lifetime retrieving what we threw away in our earlier part.
And also, it sounds like you're saying it's not like us retrieving it. It's like it's like a boomerang. Like we can't get rid of it. It's going to come back sooner or later. And I really liked your use of the word rehabilitate.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
what you
your
do.
notion that what we've thrown out is ourself, and that we are reintegrating and again rehabilitating the self that we tried to throw out with our whole being,
Yeah,
and that not picking and choosing, aka Shin Shin Ming,
and it,
is
yeah, that's right.
is the
Not
great
sure.
way.
Yes, it's like,
That's the all.
yeah,
Okay, I get it.
that's the
Thank you.
only way you can have it all.
Yeah.
You see, it's all of you, and it's out there roaming, as it were, angry, sad, sorrowful, whatever, lonely, mad, happy, elated, all of that is out there, and it's coming back to you. Every time you sit, you have a chance to deal with that again, with all your thoughts running through your head. When you don't, like, judge them,
Sandy, could you please mute?
Oh, sorry.
when you don't, say mute. You don't. When you don't try to get rid of it, when you accept whatever comes back at you, even when you're sitting in zazen and your angry thoughts, they start coming through, that's the same thing. When you don't fight it and judge it and try to get rid of it, and you just let it stay there and move through on its own speed, it doesn't just come in and go out again. It comes in and stays. That's my feeling. And you bring it into yourself again, but you have to do that with a completely open mind.
So you're saying we can't have everything we want
Yeah,
with nothing we don't want?
yeah, that's self-wanting. But the other is collecting by your real being, saying, oh, I threw this out, oh, I got that out there, and then here it comes back sitting in my lap saying, take me back.
What about like a good career, a nice family, a nice place to live, a nice car? Can we have that?
You can have that for a while,
Okay.
right? It's like everything
enough.
in
I'll take
life
that.
changes.
Stop there.
That's right. You can have certain things in samsara, but like, it's not going to be easy, right? There's a lot of stress in it, no matter what you do. That's part of samsara. And so whatever you have, you can say it's like when we were in a temple and Peter and I were sitting at a feast with our Roshi teacher in Japan. And he was sitting on the opposite side of the table, and we had this wonderful dinner of sushi and everything, like the whole table was full. And Peter looked at it and said, Gokuraku, Gokuraku, which is heaven, heaven. And the teacher looked at us and said, Jikoku, tomorrow, Jikoku, Jikoku, which is hell. He said, tomorrow, Ashta, Jikoku, Jikoku. And I thought, that's samsara. That no matter heaven today, not heaven tomorrow, it's just, you can have wonderful success, then you're gonna have to fight for it or something, or lose it, one thing after another.
Nothing comes easy.
Nothing comes easy in samsara because we're there to train and learn.
We're here to train.
Here, I mean. I was wanting to think this was samsara and not samsara.
We're in nirvana now. Once we go out to the end, then we're in samsara, and that's where we do the training.
I think of nirvana as samsara and not samsara.
I like that.
Yeah, there was like, yeah.
There's a statistical principle called regression to the mean.
Yes.
Right? So if you're out here having a great time, it will regress back to the mean. Right? And if you're having a real bad time, it will regress back to the mean.
Yeah,
And eventually it'll all average out. A second question, it's a little digressive.
yeah,
We talk about karma.
yeah.
There's 3 lifetimes,
I don't know about lifetimes,
3
but
lifetimes of twisted and tangled karma that brings us to this moment. Is that?
I don't know if it's 3 or 1 or 100. But I do think we do have many lifetimes. I think that's how we learn. Because if we say have a prejudice against something, that probably the next time you'll set the challenge for yourself to come back and, work
It doesn't
through
carry
it.
over.
Yeah, so it's not that it carries over. We choose it all. We choose what will help us most. And whatever it is, then we just live through it afterwards. We set it and then we forget it. And then we're right in the middle of like horrible times. Say you don't want to be a woman and then you're born as a woman and you're thinking, why did this happen to me? So it's like we chose everything because we knew it was the best way for us to learn at that point.
You mean I chose to be short, fat, and bald?
Probably.
Well, you can start out all quick.
And hairless too, hairless too.
I did start.
It's
On board,
You
it's
had to have hair
bald.
for a time, but then it left.
We all choose to be what we have because they were challenges for us.
I never know where it went.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Vajrayana says 3 times. Sometimes.
Have I heard that?
Yeah, probably. But and I don't know about Vipassana. No, it's all right. See, Jane. Too. Anyway,
You think
as
you
far
take
as
many
far as
you
I'm
need.
concerned, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. But
None of us know.
but from the Zen point of view, is this is it? Get with it. There's nothing else. You got to do it now.
Well, yeah, from this moment on, we can
Just
control.
your life is
our own
this
karma.
is it. There's nothing else. You have to you can't wait for the next lifetime to come. You're not saying that, but there's no possibility. You don't
Could
have
I?
another
I
chance.
just, you know what, you guys are, you have a whole contextual thing going on, but it's really hard for us to hear the questions that they're asking you. So if you guys could repeat the questions when you get
Okay,
them,
well,
that would help
Chris-
us know what you're talking about.
All right, Chris, what was your question that we brought up about? No, you had a good question, actually. What was it? Okay, well, what was your question again?
My question was, my statement was about regression to the mean.
Yeah, that everything comes to the middle always.
Yeah.
So,
Eventually.
yeah. So no matter how we are,
How do I tell it to stay where it is?
tell what to say.
It wants us to
Keep straight.
yeah. How do I keep streaming? Where's the remote? No, this is a Roku thing.
Over there.
Oh, gotcha.
The other one was my other question was, are there 3 lifetimes of karmic pressure?
I don't know about that, but I do
We'd have
think,
to repeat the question.
what Mitch said was, are there 3 lifetimes, as Vajrayana Buddhism says, of karmic pressure? And my own feeling is no, that it's as many as we choose, because it's all in our hands. It's not like a system outside of us. It's we choose what we feel like we need. We choose what is the challenge that will help us most. And the challenges, can be anything. It can be the world we live in. It can be us. It can be the circumstances we meet. So I think it's just, we choose whether it's 350 or whatever we think we need, or 1. It's just up to us whether we think we need work or don't need work. And it's like, I think karma is us returning to us. And how we deal with that is like whether we become more whole, and when we've become whole enough, we don't need more. So it's like whatever torments us or makes us suffer in some way or makes us unhappy in any way, I think that's where the work is. So, but it's everybody's thing. Sandy.
When I first started practicing Buddhism, we basically just studied the Lotus Sutra at that time. And one of the things we used to discuss and talk about in our meetings and groups about how life was like, there were 10 levels, I can't remember them all now, 10 levels from like heaven to hell. And that these were changes that we experienced in moments. So from moment to moment, our life could go from heaven to hell to sadness to whatever, all the different stages in between. And that's basically how we live our lives on a general basis. We actually experience those emotions constantly drifting and changing. So for us to experience a state of happiness or bliss, and we get attached to it, whether we realize it or not, it won't last. And it's not something you're constantly aware of, but kind of in the back of my mind now, I know, well, okay, I can be so ecstatic and whatever and happy, and something in one moment can change that, where I can be so sad or depressed or angry. Um, and it's not something I can hold on to. Like you said, you can't have everything, and you can't have it when you necessarily want it. But as you become aware of what's you're allowing your mind to show you in a delusion, um, you can control it to some degree. You can look at the delusion and realize what it is, that you're really no different than you were a second ago, but something has come into your mind and you've attached to it.
Mhm.
So, but it happens so often. It's like, it's just a steady thing and you almost don't realize it when you're not aware of it. You know, how many times a day you change from ecstatic to totally, depressed or miserable, or, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So,
Sandy, the more you keep practicing and sitting, the less
yeah,
that wide divergence of activities happens in the same
right,
way. You do really what Mitch was saying, that part where you are me and then you're back in the other end, and you always keep coming back to the center because that's the natural thing. It's like that Bodhidharma doll. No matter how you hit
hmm,
it over, it always sits up again. So
that's
it's
right,
like everything, yeah, everything is always tending to the center. And we throw it off by our own particular ego or whatever, our
right,
wants and things. And in samsara, we do have all these levels and all of this stuff, but actually, none of it really exists. None of it does.
right,
And we use that as a means to grow and struggle and work out things. But in fact, we are just us in this moment with nothing at
right,
all. We are, happy or sad, but these states come and go so much, we don't pay attention to them anymore because they don't amount to
right,
anything. They don't. What happens when you like keep this smooth, even level with ups and downs going on, but without being thrown by them? You allow insights to come through.
hmm,
So don't ever like get too depressed about how your mind changes, your body changes, your circumstances change. Just know that everything that's happening is somewhere your choice, and you can figure out that it was necessary for some reason. And all the people, the caregivers, the doctors, the teachers, are all trying to help you get back to your center. And that's all. You will know what to do when you're in your own center. So the thing
well,
to do is to not despair of any of it, because you basically should know it's your choice always in the background, and your choice would
yeah,
not be harmful to you. And if it looks harmful, it's because you're misunderstanding what is a figure before you is nothing more than a figure before you, and you add all the emotion and feeling and extras to it. And when you can peel off all that extras to it, then you understand, oh, that's what it is, just activity. You don't
hmm,
have to add anything to what you're seeing and feeling. You can just, if you feel elated, just feel elated and it goes through. If you're feeling sad, let it go through. Because when you do, it goes back to you. It doesn't
hmm,
really go through, it just stays where you are, if you don't throw it away again.
yeah,
So just
and
trust that you're in the background, always making the decisions about your life, even though it may not look like it is. Nobody else
right,
is. Yeah. Only
yeah,
the only problems are from fighting and resistance. And when you
it's,
stop clinging, that just starts going through.
yeah, I
Sorry.
even like happiness. So many people are seeking happiness, and if you stop to look and listen to yourself, you realize that it's there, it's inside, and you're searching for it is futile because you just have to let go and see it and accept it. and realize that you have the ability to choose to be happy. So it's your ability to choose when you're being miserable, just the same way. So when you realize that you do have the ability to look and to let go, then you've regained some of that center, that equilibrium that you were talking about.
Yeah, that was Mitch talking about the center. What was that
Right.
again?
Regression to the mean.
Regression to the mean. If you're interested in looking it up, it sounds very interesting. Anyway, so just
Thank you.
always trust yourself, because you are the not arbitrator, you are the architecture. Architect, thank you. You are the architect of your life in every way.
Right.
And you have everything in your hands for making it work. And the Buddhist way tells you what makes it work is non-clinging. The hardest thing on earth to learn.
What was that?
Yes.
Non-clinging. You have everything in your hands to make everything work, and the Buddhist way is to not cling. And so if you live in samsara all the time, which we all do, then the best way to live in it is to stop clinging to any part of it. Then you can live in samsara, not samsara, maybe.
Yeah. That's
If we're
true.
lucky.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome. Does
Okay,
anybody have any question?
time for the moon ceremony.
Okay.
Okay, everybody.